And it looks like we're live. Let's get this shared. Wrong button. So let's just focus for a second and see what I am doing. First things first. Just get thing created, and hey, how you doing? Completely random stream. We're just gonna see what happens. New project. So unplanned, but I felt like doing a stream, so here we go. This is it. This is me doing a random live stream. It's not showing up yet. Where is it? Where did you go? Let's see. GitHub, me. Here we go. Create. I'll need to change my view quickly. It's going to come down to this one. That should be easier. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I am going to have a play with the OpenAI package or OpenAI API. We're just going to have a bit of a play with it for fun, see what we can figure out. Here's the docs. Here's my code. We're pretty much good to go. So don't know if this is ever going to be published, but you never know. So let's just do a quick git in it. We're also going to do a composer in it. Just Steve King, OpenAI SDK. That'll do. We're just going to defaults. No. Yes. Cool. Right, we are starting. We know what we're doing, right? So we load that from the disk. So I'll compose a JSON file. We're going to require PHP upwards of 8.2. That is the start of it. For the auto load, we want PSR4. Just Steve King. What are we going to call this? We'll just call it OpenAI for now. That's going to be within source. Let's just create that directory. We'll have to autoload dev. I'll create that one anyways. Ignore that for now. So git ignore. We also want to ignore the idea stuff. So let's just quickly do a compose update. Excellent. Require those. Yes. Composer require dev. Mock client and composer require dev. Simply client. Perfect. So we have liftoff. So there's already a package for this, but I wanted to play with the API a little bit more for several reasons, really, just for fun. So we've got a few main kind of endpoint models here. We've got a few additional ones here. They're depreciated. Like if we look at the models, list models, we've got all of those. A list of model objects, and a model object is created like that. So I wanted to see what would happen if I played with it, how I would have built it. So let me just require dev. We're also going to want to add both security advisories, dev latest. Let's do another quick composer update. So we've got empties everywhere. What we're going to do is we're going to create some resources. That's what we're going to do. Resources. So we got a model resource. So we're going to just create that by default as a model resource. Just Steve King, OpenAI. I think that's how I called it. Resources. Yep, always add. Let me just go double check that namespace. Yeah, OpenAI, perfect. So all of that is there. So I am going to rename this to a resource. Then we're going to create some data objects. This data object is important. I'm going to create a model data object. So public function construct ID object created and owned by. Okay, so public read only string ID, public read only string object, int for the created, public read only string for owner. Okay, so let me just make sure that the PHP version is okay. Why is that? I'm not complaining. What have I done wrong? Let's try that again. Public function construct. This is super strange. Public read only int created and a public read only string. Public static function from an array. I'll accept an array of data and it will return a model. B is going to be data ID. Object is data. Object created data. Created. And owner is data owned by. That's all we want for that. Nice and simple. So we've got some basic stuff going on here. Here's a model resource. There's a model object. So we want to be able to list all models. So on our model resource, we're going to have a public function list. It's going to return a list of models. Okay, so concerns and create a new interact with API freight public function construct. This is going to have a protected read-only string for a token and a protected read-only string for the URL. That works. So public function client, no client interface. That's not loading for some reason. Let's just quickly reload from disk and hope that worked. Always that. Now we have it. Perfect. And that will return the client. So we're going to return the client, or we're going to create a new plugin client where the client use is going to be PSR 18, client discovery, find, plugins we're going to use, going to be a new authentication plugin. The authentication is going to use a new bearer. The token is this token. What else might we want? So we've got an authentication plugin. We can do that. We can do that. Okay, so this isn't going to be needed yet. A model resource can use interact with API. So let me just, this is the way I like to build SDKs and stuff. So OpenAI SDK. So what I'm imagining here is that we're going to say request is a new model resource whatever token, and the URL is passed through. Then we can say something like request list, and that's all we need. You know, so models list. Nice and simple. There we go. Click through. Perfect. So it's nice and clean. Then if we were to build this into a Laravel application, for example, we could create a resource, and that would allow us to say model resource list, and it would just work. So that would be a Laravel facade example. And if we were using dependency injection, we would have sort of like a public construct on something, and that would get a private read-only model resource in the public function handle. Whatever we might be doing there is we'd be saying models equals this resource list. Save the models to cache for later. For example, let's just say like a new class like that, so it's a bit more obvious. So it allows us to really mostly focus on like the model aspect of it. So the resource itself. Then with images, the image object, we can do the same thing. So let's come over data objects. Let's go create an image. This has represent the URL of the URL of the image. If the response format is URL, so both are strings and a revised prompt. So public function construct, you're going to have a public read-only string for the source and a public read-only string for the prompt itself. So public static function from array data, turn an image, turn new image. Source is data B64 JSON or data URL, and the prompt is data revised. That works. Let me just add some dot blocks to this. The array shape is going to be the B64 image is null string, URL is null string, and the revised prompt is string. That works. That helps a lot. So let's make that read only. I like my dot blocks, even though I've still got types, it just works for me. Let's add that. Let's add some array shape here. When I've got multiple properties like that, I like to drop it down a line. So we're going to have an ID as a string, object string, created is going to be an integer, and then the owned by is a string as well. Drop this in. There we go. So that's that. That's that. Image, as a README. Here's a model resource. So that's got the interact with API, so I can get the client quite nicely. So client is this client. Get client. Build request. Next step would be to send request and transform response. So this is kind of like how I go through building these sorts of things. So when we want to build a request, again, we're going to have something in here. So we have a public function request. We could, I suppose, pass it in by default. That's an optional. Request for PSR 17, factory discovery, find request factory, create request. Method is string method, string URL. Method, and the URI is going to be this URL like that. So there we go. We've got a request available. Our core request is going to be this request. The method is going to be get. URL is going to be someone else. Models, this models, P1 models. Okay, so slash models. This is a request. Then we want to say request with body, and the body is going to be, actually don't need to send one because it's just a get request, so perfect. We can try and get the response by saying client send request, the request is this. But in reality, we could probably just grab that and replace that there, make it a little bit nicer. Turn that into just a build and send. We could catch anything that is throwable as an exception. Create a new directory for exceptions. And we could say OpenAI request exception. This can extend a standard exception. This, and then we can just throw a new OpenAI request exception where the message is failed to list models. Code can be exception, get code, and the previous can just be exception. So we can now just simplify this. Good. That part works. That part works. Next, we want to kind of loop over that response. So how can we do that? At this point, you know, if we did a response, let's just uncomment that. Get content, get body, get contents. This would be a string. So what we want to do, we want to JSON decode it into an array, loop through the array to create a model, return array of models. So that's kind of how we want to approach this. So this will be an array that gets returned eventually. So what can we do? What can we do? Let's try doing it all in line. Decode. So JSON is going to be response, get body, get contents, associative as true, flags, JSON, throw an error. Pardon error handling. Okay, cool. So JSON is that. Associative is that. I don't know why I always get those issues. So that'll give us an array back by default. So what we want to do is return an array map where the array is that, and the callback is a model. That's going to return a model back. It's a model from JSON where the data is model. And there we go. We've got a nice, simple way to do that. Obviously, it kind of needs testing. So let's just simplify that. Let's do this. It's going to return int model. And what this does is link is that turn a list of available models. Perfect. Endpoint achieved. So just initialize pest quickly. Composer require pest PHP dev with all dependencies. Yes, want to allow that. Composer require pest plugin type coverage. I don't want that. It's got PHP stand, perfect. And we're going to say composer require dev Laravel pint. So now if I just go to gist quickly, I can grab my pint config and my PHP stand config. So over here, I can say new file, PHP stand.neon, add that in, grab this and create my pint.json. And that's all in there. So let's just set up our tooling quickly. So in our composer JSON, we're just going to add some scripts. So we're going to have dump. I always like to add this. So composer dump auto load optimize class map authoritative strict PSR. All right, let's see if that works. Composer dump. Always get that bit wrong. So like that. One day I'm going to learn to spell that correctly first time without checking. Okay, so there's dump. The next one is going to be pint. Vendor in pint. So I just compose a pint. Everything perfect. Then we have I don't know, stan. Vendor in PHP stan. Analyze memory limit to be 3 gig. So let's compose a stan. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So down in my PHP stan, swap that for source. I wonder what this does if I add that. Let's debug. Okay, so parameter callback, blah, blah, blah. Okay, not useful. Given, cool, parameter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, not too bothered about those right now. Not too bothered about those. Awesome. So that's stan. Then we can do test, vendor in test. There's a test. It's not set up. Perfect. And then types. We can do vendor bin test type coverage. composer types. The source section found, not a problem. And what we'll do at the top is bridge in the bin test bridge. What I'll do quickly is just quickly vendor bin test in it. All that set up quickly. Here's my test case. That all looks good. Let's just declare some strict types and say that we are going to users test case class in use tests case and just there we go. Let's just then remove this. That part is fine. Go to test. Okay. Test. Let's just drop that. Cache result is false. Composer, we got all of this set up, and load tests. Namespace tests. Composer dump quickly and composer tests. Now we're good. So now we can see types, type coverage. Guys, can be slow sometimes. Looking good. And composer coverage from a testing perspective, we are currently 0 because we have not done any tests. Awesome. So feature and unit can go because I don't want those. What we're going to do first is function client. Actually, I don't need that. I'll come back to doing something like that. Let's go directory resources, and we're going to say I'm going to create a new model resource test, declare some strict types, and say that it can create a new model resource. X. The instance of model resource class. That one, and the token is going to be 1234, and the URL is going to be https api.awesome.com. Compose test, and now we've got failures. Perfect. So unexpected wibbledy wobbledy. There. Fantastic. So we got something going on. So what we also want to make sure that we can do is it can create a new PSR18 client for the resource. So this test here isn't exactly needed, but I like to add them just like a debugging thing, so that I know I've not made any mistakes. So our resource is going to be that new model resource. Token is 1234, and the URL is https api.awesome.com. So we're going to expect that the resource client to be instance of plugin client. Looking good. We're also going to want to say that it can replace the PSR 18 client when creating it. We want to make sure that it is, pluggable in some way. We're going to do the exact same thing there, but where this is, we're going to say that our client is a new mock client. Let's just simplify some of these. I want to make sure that this client interface wait a minute. That's not what I want. What I want here is a new client. So let's just go make sure I can do that. Compose a test, and we're good. So we're making a PSR client, looking good. We can create a random PSR one. We can do that. So then what we're going to do is say, like, I don't know, it can turn a response. I've got a meeting in a moment, so I don't want to spend too long on it. So what we want to do here is expect resource not that, not that. I can create the client there. What I want to be able to do is on this resource here is null client interface client. I would default that to null. So when we're creating the client, or this bit is, we're just going to call that HTTP. Let's make sure I know what I'm doing. And client is, there we go, that's passing through, which means that when I'm testing it, I can say resource list client is a new mock client. This should return an array. Let's see if it does. I'm going to add it any information. So there we go. Syntax error. Yeah. Something's gone wrong. Not sure what. Oops. Right, I've actually got to go for a meeting, but that was an impromptu random live stream for 30, 40 minutes, playing with the OpenAI API for fun. It's fun. PSR. Lovely. I'll catch you all later. Have a great day. I'm going to go back and do some other cool stuff. Bye-bye.